Hi, this is Darren Drew from D. Drew Guitars. Today I'm going to show you and explain the basics of gluing a maple top on a body and this is all by hand, but let me give you the basics first of making the body. First off, you want to have it the shape you want, but everything revolves around a center line. As you can see on the front and back, I have my center line. Everything revolves around that. You want the distance from here to here and from here to here to be the same as from here to here to be the same. And especially you want your bridge and your neck to follow that center line perfectly. Otherwise, the whole thing is going to be off and not work. So cut your design out and have your center line in mind the whole time you're working on everything. And as you can see, I've routed out all my pickups. My bridge slot's going to have a Floyd Rose in it. I've put in these cutouts to lighten it up. Just because this is going to be all maple, it's going to be very heavy. I put in these metal pieces here and a carbon fiber rod back here to give this some strength through this area. I also made a plug that will go in the back here that will just sit in there and be able to pull out but fit in snug to add more strength to it, because I mount my pickups from the back side, so then they will protrude through the top side. And that's the basics of it. I have my top that's going to be glued on, and as you can see, I have a lot of curve to it. So what happens is I will pre-bend the piece that I'm gluing on, if you can see how it's bent. And I'll do that 2 or 3 times, soak it in, I do it in my bathtub with super hot water, as hot as the water gets. And then I will clamp it down and let it dry overnight. And then that's what gives me this bend to it, to follow the shape. Because once I put glue on, it's going to want to slide off down towards the downhill side. It makes it very slippery. So also what I do is I use where my holes will be in my neck pocket for here to hold this piece on. This is where the studs will go on for the tremolo. So I'll use those 2 parts to glue it on, because this will be drilled out later. This will be taken off later with the neck pocket. But I want to be able to hold this thing perfectly in place as I am clamping it down. And so then also what I do is I will take a block sander. This has got like 120 grit, and make this perfectly flat and smooth. You can look at it and see if it's going to be smooth or not as you're sanding. Otherwise, you can just take some pencil, do some pencil marks on it, and it will show you exactly where you need to sand it perfectly flat, because we want this to be a very good glue joint, that will last forever, actually. And then I also scribe it in afterwards. Some people say that's not necessary, some do. I do it just because. And then just hit it with some light paper. But I have all my cutouts already precisely exactly where they should be for my pickups to come through once my screws are in. So now I'm at the gluing process. So this is how you glue on a top. This is all, flame maple. So first I'll get some Titebond glue. I kind of prefer Elmer's, but a lot of times they don't have that. Put on a generous amount. You also want to have a wet rag with you so you can do some cleanup at the same time, because that's very important to keep it clean. Make this dust free as you're doing it also. Another thing you want to keep in mind when you're doing this is to have your clamping blocks. See, I have this that goes on the back side, and which is cut out the same shape as the body, very close to exactly the same body. That way you can put your clamps all the way in. And I do the same thing on the top side. I'm not going to need as much in here because I don't want too much of it to have to clean out later, but you want to put on a plentiful amount. Make sure it goes everywhere, you know, enough glue everywhere. And I use wood glue because it's wood. Have a wet rag handy so you can do your cleanup. Just smearing this around so it's nice and thick everywhere. Closer to the edges. You don't want it quite as thick because you're going to have to clean it up later. Right there, I really don't want it because that's going to be cut out for the tremolo. So I will just take that off right now. Even though I'm going to put some felt in there where it's going to be going underneath the tremolo. Most companies just use like this black foam or whatever. I'll use some felt. This guy wants it orange, so I'll make it orange felt. I'm trying to make this video as short as possible, but it's going to be long anyway. And what I didn't show you was on the back side where my pickups will go and the wires will be going through, is I always put, route it out and put a plastic straw inside so that the I'll put in a plastic straw so that you can run the wires through, and then I'll cap it off with a piece of wood. See how this wants to slide down already? And have your screws just be able to slide through this hole. I'll tack this down where it's supposed to be just to hold it in place. Because once I start clamping, it's going to want to slide. We don't want that. Okay, it's a little too tight because I need to make these all nice and even. And I want to start getting the glue off of here so I can see my center line. Because keeping track of that center line is the most important thing. And holding this in place while you're doing this is so important because if this is off, the first one that you're doing is off, the whole thing is going to be off, and you don't want that. And like how I have my pickup holes already cut out, you don't want them to be too big when you're done because you want it to be a nice snug fit. So I'm feeling here. Okay, and I can see too much of a line back here already, so I'll loosen those screws just a touch more. You see how much it's even moving? Take a screwdriver here with the wet rag. You don't want it too wet, but you want it wet enough to make sure my center line is in the proper place. And believe it or not, you have time to do with this, with the gluing process. I mean, it starts drying pretty quickly, but you still have time to move it where you want it. And see, like, now this one here is way off, so I'll push it up. I'll tighten the screw. And now I'll check it again. That looks good. See, this one can go up now. So I'll loosen this a touch. Try to push it right there where I want it. See how it just sucked it back down? And before I even get to this point, though, one thing I forgot to mention is I will want to To make this a perfectly 90-degree angle here, I'll bend it, and then I'll take it to my table saw and I will use my fence with some sticky sandpaper, draw my fence over it. That way it keeps it a perfect 90 degrees, and hold it really tight against the fence and sand it. Make sure that it's 90 degrees straight up and down right here. Okay, that looks really good. So now what I'm going to do is, with my piece I already have cut out for the back side, get some of this glue out of here. This is really a messy process. So I'll wipe up that glue. I'll put my piece down here. And this is another important aspect for you to want to do, is have your clamps already preset for the height of this project, of clamping this all together. So as you can see, I have this already the same shape. So then my marks there are good, my marks there are good. So now what I do is I have my pieces that are already pre-cut and numbered to clamp on my first clamps, which you want to start at the inside edge because you do not want them to move. Okay, where'd my clamps go? I don't believe it. So then I will start from out here with the one that's far away, just so that I can be able to reach it with the deep clamp. Make sure that this is on the proper place. Make sure that this is up like tight to the corner at the edge, because I will want to clean this up later. And these are my most important clamps, because I want this to stay in place. So I will clamp it down, and not only I will clamp it down like this, I will get a long wrench and make sure it's nice and clamped down. I will start cleaning up this glue a little bit later, but let me get some of it out of the way now. Same with inside the holes. So then I have a piece that's cut out for this. Let me get this one here on the very edge, because this is like one of the most important parts. And you really need to have this nice and flat, and the bottom of this side nice and flat, so that you have zero glue line when you're done, especially on a light colored wood like this maple. It is very important to have it like that. So then I'll use another long reach clamp for this. Put it right in place. Okay, those are good. Get another one of these. I hope this one reaches here. Yes, it will. I'm going to try and get 2 clamps on this one. You want this nice and tight. I use as many clamps as I have, actually, to get this, to glue these tops on. You could never have like too many clamps. I don't have a glue press like a lot of places do. And then I'll put another one right here. want to get this first edge clamped down there really nice and tight at the beginning. And then you work your way downwards this way. Okay, I'll clean up this line just a little bit to make sure that I can see half of that line, my pencil line, in which that's good right there. That's good right there. But we want to make sure that this edge is very nice and clean because we don't want any glue left to be there that we won't be able to get out later. For the other piece to snug up next to it. Okay, so that's good so far right there. I have my other piece. I'll put on here. And since there's such a curve to it, I like to use small pieces so it bends to the how it's, contoured. And then I will use more big clamps that I have to get as far in as I can get. And like I say, you can never have enough clamps. And you kind of want to work from the inside out, so I use a deeper one in here. You also trim this body up as far as you can get it really close to the edge as possible. For two reasons: it'll make it less to saw off and clean up later. Plus, it will make your clamps go on farther. Get these tightened down. You can see my handles are bent because of this, but that's all right. Then I have another piece that I was gonna say should go in here, I hope, but it's not now. There we go. That will be for that part. I'll have another one that will go on here. So I'm running out of clamps already, but what I will do, and I want to get this one closer to the edge because that's where I care about the glue joint being the best. You want to keep cleaning your glue up on the outside edge here. That's to clean up later. Plus the clamps get in your way to do it later. Okay, so I'm out of my C-clamps. So now I will go to these other type of clamps. And usually what I like to do is flip it over to do it and have them on the opposite side because that way I can get to the handles to tighten them easier. Let me just tack this thing down where it's supposed to be. So then that way I can reach to these handles better, easier. Wipe off some of this glue that's coming out. You know, the more clamps you have on, the less room you have to do this with. So I like to try to keep it clean as possible. Get this out of my way now. Work from the inside outwards. Wipe off more glue. Believe me, it's easier to do it now while it's wet than when it's dry. See, having your clamps preset really makes it a world of difference. There is a trick also to, once you unclamp this and find if you don't have a good glue joint, you can heat it up with a iron and with a wet rag over the top, heat it up really hot with an iron and then clamp it. And that will push the wood and make a better glue joint if you find that there is, you know, like a large black line that didn't get sealed nice and tight. Gee, I need a couple more clamps right here too.